Well, since time is pressing, so I will start. My name is Kostas Touloumis. I work for the Fisheries Research Institute in Kavala, Greece, a place where Ruiz visited in the spring of 2023, spent 2 months there, and we worked closely together in order to develop the tools that I will show you, I will present you today. And today I want to mainly focus on some aspects of the philosophy that we followed during the development of this model. And these aspects are mainly is for striving for biological realism in stock assessment models. Well, first, let me talk a bit about population model building strategies. As you know, stock assessments are a kind of population models, and as such, they are built under a specific population model building strategy. Within this context, probably the two most important aspects of population model building strategies in stock assessment is precision and realism. So we can say that stock assessment models are designed to realistically represent the population dynamics of the assessed population, through that to provide precise outcomes based on which advice for sustainable management is provided. However, we argue that contemporary stock assessment practices often place very high emphasis on precision, while at the same time they overlook biological realism, a fact that often leads to precise estimation of wrong outcomes. Now, there are several ways that this neglect of biological realism is happened in stock assessment, some of which include the arbitrary selection of values for several variables. The fact that when the model fits well, we very, very often disregard the fact that the parameterization was unrealistic or that the outcomes are unrealistic. And finally, the fact that fisheries history is very often overlooked when we build the models or when we interpret the outcomes. Now, if we move our focus to the surplus production models, the majority of the models that we use today follow the paradigm of the Bayesian statistics. The routine followed in this kind of statistics is based on updating existing prior knowledge with data in order to generate posterior new knowledge. Now, the lack of focus on biological realism in surplus production model is usually manifested through the use of uninformative or erroneous priors for key parameters of life history, again through the ignorance on fisheries history, as well as on deficient data management and preparation. Now, having these issues in mind, what we try to do is to provide an environment to assist stock assessors to refocus on biological realism when building their models. This has been done through the development of the CLA toolbox, a toolbox that includes R-Sign interactive interfaces for 4 stock assessment models, assessing on different combinations of available data. Now, the two main aspects of this development with which we aim to refocus on biological realism was the fact that we tried to bring together into one environment several different sources of available existing knowledge about the stock that it is assessed, that enables experts to make the best possible choices for priors and thus the most effective decisions during the preparation and the parameterization of their model. Second, the fact that we provide an interactive environment which enables stock assessors to focus, or even we try to force them to use all available information on fisheries history during the data preparation in order to make the best possible choices on the parameterization of their models. Now, the 4 stock assessment models that are included in the toolbox that we created, and these methods are developed by Dr. Ruiz and his team, are AMSY, CMSY, BSM, and LBB. Now, these models are able to exploit a wide range of available data and priors. Since in data poor situations, there is actually a wide array of possible data availability and data gaps. AMSY, for example, is able to provide estimates on relative stock size fishing pressure and sustainable catch from abundance data and priors for resilience, or R, as well as with priors for stock history manifested as biomass 2 carrying capacity priors. CMSY does a similar work using catch-only data as well as priors on resilience and stock history. If you have both CPUE and catches data, then BSM is the way to do your stock assessment using our toolbox. And finally, in situations where no catch or CPUE data are available, but length frequency distribution data is, then this data can be used to estimate relative stock size, fishing pressure, and healthy size structure with the assistance of priors for maximum length at first maturity. Now, let's see some examples of integration of existing knowledge in stock assessment models, model building within the modules of the CLA toolbox. The first example comes from the resilience / R prior selection environment. This screenshot is from BSM, but it is the same in AMSY and CMSY also. So here the user is able to select the resilience for the assessed stock or to set the range of R priors. But this can be done based on expertise knowledge. But however, users can also press this button here and connect to FishBase and SeaLifeBase or SeaLifeBase in order to bring information from there. They can retrieve all the information about the assessed species from FishBase or SeaLifeBase without leaving this environment in order to get information and make a better decision about their prior settings. At the same time, users are able to see in real time how K prior ranges changes based on the selection of R priors, as well as based on the algorithm that estimates viable RK pairs within the app. The second example comes from the biomass carrying capacity prior selection environment. Here, users need to provide a brief description of the stock history by setting 3 B2K prior pairs in a blank canvas. Now, if LBB B2K outcomes are available, user can load them to assist to make the best possible choice. This is the green line behind the set of the priors, is the LBB outcomes, where people can load them in order to make the best possible decisions for the priors based on the available knowledge about the stock. Now, the third and final example given here comes from the LBB model, where again connection to the FishBase or SeaLifeBase can be established that brings information about maximum length as well as for L infinity in order to assist the selection of the priors for L infinity, which is necessary for the LBB model to run. So in this example, what I try to show you is that within the apps, we try to create microenvironments to assist the prior selection in each step of the process. And within each environment, we try to bring together all available knowledge that can assist this selection, either from FishBase or related model outcomes, as well as from expertise knowledge. Now, let's move on to interactivity. The first example is from LBB, the stock assessment method that probably benefits the most from the conversion from the script to this interactive R-Shiny form. This is the data preparation interactive environment where we see length frequency distribution per year for the assessed stock. As you can see, the time series is a bit wiggly, but what we provide is a full set of tools in order to make the best data preparation for the parameterization of the model. For example, we can change the length class width when it is not desirable, as we did here. And we can also exclude years where the quality of the available data is low by pressing the corresponding buttons in order to make the best choices about the parameterization of the model. After that, and based on data preparation, the LBB model runs for each year's LFD. When the model fit is not reliable, when the model doesn't fit well, a red background indicates that it would be preferable to go back, remove these years, and rerun the analysis in order to get the most reliable outcomes of your models. Now, a very versatile interactive environment is also provided for preparing CADS and CPUE data in AMSY, CMSY, and BSM. Here is an example about the CPUE data, and it is from AMSY. Here, user is able, for example, to remove some data from the beginning of the time series if these data are not reliable. User is able to, if the CPUE comes from commercial sources, and if there are evidence that technological creep affected the catchability, user can impose e-creep on the time series by setting the year from which it started to affect catchability, and they can also adjust the percentage of the change on catchability due to e-creep. Users can also smooth the dataset if it's necessary, or they can change the uncertainty CV around the time series. Finally, the last addition to the Shiny apps is a fully interactive, dynamic environment to perform short-term forecast based on the stock assessment model. Here, the number of projection years can be adjusted by the user. User is able to change the assumptions about the interim year by selecting the parameter on which the estimation will be based on F or CADS. They can build their scenarios either on F or CADS, and by pressing Start, a set of default scenarios run. A full array of outcomes is provided, but after that, user can set their own manual scenarios based on their hypothesis, and everything will change dynamically. As I said, a full set of outcomes is provided, either in table form or in graphs. Here you see F to FMSY, and this is CADS and biomass also outcomes for short-term forecast in BSM. Now, all these applications are available on GitHub in this address. And now for the future steps, the full functionalization of the apps is under preparation in order to provide a functional and flexible work environment for advanced users also, not only for, I mean, the one very, very big advantage of the Shiny apps is that it can be used by users that has no coding background, so it's very easy for them to use these tools. But we want also to provide a flexible work environment for advanced users also, in order to integrate everything into one package, the CLA package loaded with this command, the usual command in R, library CLA. But this is a work under preparation. And that's all, some screenshots from the results. Thank you.